Hello, it's the Sinister Game Beaner here with a new video. And in this video, I'm going to be going over the Grand Theft Auto Online Money Front, which will be the titling basically of the Summer 2025 DLC coming out into the game June 17th. For the title there, basically, the Newswire was released on June 11th, 2025. I'm going to something like the headlines. I'll get back to the image in certain moments when there's more like details, basically. But yeah, expand and connect to your criminal network in the new GTA Online update. We'll look at the business kind of thing, or like kind of the main one. It sounds like one of the like couple. It sounds like there, as again I will get to. Alright, so the first paragraph here, it will have to do with money laundering, particularly for cleaning up the criminal empire. Bottom line, seems this will be more in the legitimate side of things, which I feel you could maybe kind of argue with the garment factory that felt pretty legitimate, being like the FIB files and whatnot, but FIB could kind of be considered, I guess, pretty corrupt, probably. And then you had Mackenzie Field Hanger, which is nowhere near like the most illegitimate. But yeah, these will probably be some of the most legal businesses in the game once they do come out, surely. And then, yeah, that'll let you route earnings through an interconnected operation, hiding from prying eyes. Apparently, your main contact here, it looks like, will be Martin Madrazo. Actually, pretty hype about that Martin Madrazo will be coming back in a major situation, it seems, this time around as well. He was actually mentioned in the Mackenzie missions that came out with like early March. He did have like mentions of dialogue with Oscar Guzman, basically. So he was a little bit relevant technically last update, or current update, basically. But I hope he's pretty involved, because this has potential to be the most involved Martin Madrazo would be in GTA Online once this update releases. Since for the most part I know him for the contact missions and then the kind of like the side kind of bail enforcement thing, not the actual bail enforcement of course, but like the purple thing where you have like a target each day basically. And if you use a certain weapon of choice, you get like the double amount of money, whatever. But yeah, he'll connect with new advisors, they'll help accumulate new ventures to launder the dirty money. And if using accounts of legitimate income. But yeah, crave bookkeeping and then a little elbow grease. Goes basically to the image up there, basically for like a mention, basically. You'll get further enriched and taxman will be none the wiser. Yeah, another image here. Might be a couple interesting things here, as I kind of will mention. One I guess I can mention right now, because there wasn't really much of a mention. The vehicle here I could see being like a custom flatbed, basically like a flatbed custom, because I'm pretty sure you obviously cannot customize like a flatbed of all things in the game right now, so I presume this would be a custom vehicle or like a sale vehicle at least, maybe not even a custom sale vehicle, but given they've done that with like Nightclub and Acid Labs on the later like businesses of the game, I could very much see it being a flatbed custom or something kind of similar in lines, something like the Mobile Operations Center with the like Hauler Phantom custom. More so, I guess, the Phantom Hauler custom is going from like least expensive to most expensive. And then working at the car wash. Car wash over here, the hands-on car wash apparently is located in Strawberry. So this could be pretty close to the like Strawberry, I believe the cheapest location for the auto shop, for example. Could very much be located close to that, I would have to imagine. Yeah, it goes into the top there, or the paragraph here. Perfect vintage facade, conceal, vacate whatever, conceal illegal activity, low profile, cash intensive business. Will not alert the authorities, serves as the heart of the new money laundering operation. I mean, it's a car wash, obviously. Wash makes sense for money laundering after all, like washing money basically, or whatever. I'm sure it makes perfect sense for this to be like the main hub of this new kind of stuff. And going back to this image actually real quick, if there is any new weapon being hinted, it could maybe this, but this might just also be the compact rifle and the other ones, I'm pretty sure, like micro SMGs. Which could be a hint at, yeah, like this flatbed, like custom or something. I have to imagine it's a new vehicle since, surely, yeah, the other flatbed, obviously there's nothing to hold on to. And then the people in the back look like they'll be able to use something more advanced, like sidearms, like drive-by weapons with like the compact rifle. For example, you can use that on like motorcycles. You can probably use it on like side seats of like helicopters, side seats of like the Moonbeam. Another close example maybe to this would be like the back of the Phantom wedge, basically. So it seems like it will be a vehicle that allows for more advanced drive-by weapons, which is pretty nice. That's also actually another thing I meant to mention earlier. Just thought more on now, though. And owning the car wash will pull in passive income for the established criminal network. And that will also allow you to apparently get access to the smoke on the water dispensary. Pretty interesting given that Franklin could actually own this in a single player. So that's not going to be the first time that will happen, obviously, because Mackenzie Hanger, for example, for the current update, Trevor was able to buy that, but you can actually buy that in the latest update as like the last couple months for the drip feed. So it's interesting you'll be able to buy Franklin's Smoke on the Water from single player as well once this comes out. And the Higgins Helitours, which is interesting. I mostly noticed from Grand Theft Auto 4 and like episodes from Liberty City, but if they do appear, I imagine it's like in kind of the main like helipad areas for like Los Santos, where you get some of your like Pegasus vehicles. Imagine it's there, surely, right? I don't use Pegasus vehicles the most. I don't necessarily like go there particularly, and personal aircraft spawns I think are like other places basically. So I don't go to it too much, I'll be honest, but yeah, I believe that would be there, if not like the main airport, obviously. Sure, it would be the only couple of places I could actually see that happening, like where that would be. Yeah, some mental fronts, each with their own above and below board operations, especially above for the Higgins Helitours, of course, being related to helicopters. Those properties apparently will also boost your earnings on your weed farm and air freight cargo, respectively. Makes sense because Smoke on the Water, of course, is like a weed kind of business thing in the single player. Again, Franklin can buy, he resonates a lot with that, being colored like green. His player color is like green and whatnot, so obviously resonates a lot with Franklin. So all that connection stuff makes sense. Higgins, Helitours, of course, again, helicopters, air freight cargo makes sense. That's cool. Those will actually give you boosts on those existing businesses, it sounds like. And air freight already got a permanent boost, for example, down the line. They have also boosted weed and stuff, but I don't think they've boosted that as much as they have for air freight before. Through different buffs and like past updates. So obviously there should be, of course, on top of all that as well, keep in mind. Especially the air freight, I could definitely see being even a whole lot more lucrative, even from currently even. illegal dealings apparently here for any of the establishments will track attention, and it will generate some kind of like heat system. If it gets too high, off the lose attention, playing as the role of the local business owner for like the legitimate side of those businesses. And not allow you to continue collecting passive income, maybe for the car wash, or maybe just some kind of passive income tied to these smaller things here as well for the smoke on the water and the Higgins Helitours. So it seems there's going to have to be some kind of balance between actually doing the true, like, illegitimate side of the businesses for the existing, like, weed farm and the existing air freight stuff, and then having to balance it out with these new ones that kind of maximize on your passive income, which very much can be an ideal strat, especially if you don't have like the 201 like security contracts for like the easy 20k per 48 minutes, for example, or even like rebooking DJs constantly and whatnot for like the nightclub one, which is some of the better safes to take advantage of. So that definitely sounds like it'll be some interesting stuff to have to balance there for continuing to collect the passive income. And Money Fronts will also introduce a range of new vehicles, of course, like pretty much every other update just about, besides for like the super small ones, like the free mode events DLC from like back in 2015, for example, like the small ones that don't include much of anything. And that gets me back going up to the main image that I wanted to hold back on stuff for. So I know this one doesn't exactly look it's all that tall to be much of an SUV, but Karin Everon, basically, that's currently in the game for, I believe it's still in the luxury section of like San Andreas Super Autos, and that's an off-roader, right? I'm pretty sure it's off-road. Which I always did kind of find a little weird because it does look like it's a pretty tall SUV for the current one in the game, for the basic Everon. But yeah, before this even comes out, there's also the Hot Ring Everon basically in the game as well for the sports class. So it's basically the third Everon in the game. That's pretty insane. And this one will even be in a whole different class as well, being SUVs. That's interesting. So what, if it's kind of based on the current Everon, it could be like an off-roady kind of style SUV, which would be an interesting niche maybe to fulfill. Might not be too many off-roady SUVs in the actual SUV class currently, so that could maybe be a little interesting. Well, it definitely would probably be a luxury SUV according to the San Andreas Super Autos website. At least, which again could also be interesting, I would say. I know, I seen the bikes are just basic, like, motorcycles, of course, for use like choppers. This, to me, kind of looks like a sports classics, or like a sports car. I don't think they've hinted at some kind of new vehicle for this one here. Could just be an existing one, like the Uranus Slow Speed or Last Speed from like the current latest update. Maybe it's something like the NSCR 350 or something for sports. I think they were like a sport classics or a sports car, whether it's like some existing one or some new one. Don't really want to put the most guess in this since they haven't really seemed to hint at this one currently, either because it's not actually new or like they're saving it for when the update releases or something. And then this vehicle over here looks to be the Declasse Tampa GT, it sounds like it is, according to that description. This definitely has to be the Tampa GT for the muscle car they have in the paragraph there. Looks like it's definitely going to be pretty cool. A nice GT version of the Tampa that they have released from like back in the Fastest Price 2015 update, I believe it was, when the original Tampa got put into GT Online. Particularly that, of course, returned from like past GTA titles. So that will probably be a pretty interesting muscle car there. And then surely this obviously just like the Shamal or some basic twin jet plane that's like already in the game. If there is any kind of new aircraft, I would obviously presume it would probably be a helicopter. New aircrafts very much would probably more likely than past updates actually be an actual, like, possible thing they would definitely do, of course, given the last update, like the current one, I mean, more so even expand, of course, with the Mackenzie Field hangar, having the 35 hangar slots, or 40 if you decide to pay for plus for some reason, for the extra, like, +5. So, like, obviously makes a lot more sense now to have new aircrafts compared to updates prior, with the Mackenzie Field hangar being released, starting with, like, current latest update, before this one ends up coming out. Like, if I do see a new aircraft, it would most likely be a helicopter if they do only, like, one new aircraft for some reason. Like, maybe there's a new plane as well, who knows, but I don't really think that was a new plane. And then, yeah, the Woodlander, these are both confirmed to be SUVs, and it says SUVs with the S at the end there, so that's obviously plural, so both of those will be SUVs. So it looks like it will be a packed update for SUVs, which is actually pretty nice. There's definitely not as many SUVs in the game as there is muscle cars, which there's like 80-ish of those already, even before this one comes out. It's not as crazy fleshed out as the sports class. That's like 115, I believe, in the game already. Supers even has like 60, and I don't even think SUVs is in 60 yet, so definitely pretty good to see more SUVs come into the game. Yeah, the Woodlander, I want to say might be this vehicle over here, but you don't exactly get the greatest look because of the micro SMG being held by the character over here. So I guess we'll have to wait for that one to see if that ends up actually being the Woodlander there. Yeah, Tampa GT, I could definitely see this one being pretty tight. GT definitely gives some vibes. It could maybe be a pretty top performing one I could see as well. Yeah, no clue on the Everon RS. I could see that one being pretty interesting for performance as well. I could see like the Woodlander maybe being the lesser of the three in terms of performance capabilities is what I would take a guess at. And then law enforcement enthusiasts apparently will be allowed to take on dispatch work on the new Western Police bike. So it seems they will be making the existing police bike available for purchase on the surely the Warstock Cash and Carry website, which is where like pretty much every other police vehicle is on right now. And that will also come with the special summer highway patrol outfit to match, apparently. But yeah, these outfits have actually already been in the game files with the latest, like, current update before this even comes out. Which I actually covered in my leak video that I did actually for the Agents of Sabotage DLC. But none of them actually came out, and it's actually already the last event when it comes to the Agents of Sabotage DLC, because obviously this will come out with the next event, and they did like a longer event week. And yeah, it kind of makes sense they saved it for this update. It was kind of just like added earlier on with Agent Sabotage for some reason, since it's had summer and winter, and summer before winter makes sense to have it that way, I guess. So yeah, there was a bunch of foreshadowing that there was going to be some kind of like way of releasing some of the outfits, I guess. I guess it was just not meant to be with the Agent Sabotage DLC, which is weird with the FIB kind of stuff to me, but okay. Better late than never, at least. And yeah, police bike probably makes a ton of sense to come with the outfit it is here. Very much probably the one that's in like single player, for example, I'm guessing, or similar to it. That one single player mission with the police bike was definitely a pretty iconic one. And then this here is a brand new supercar as well, apparently, for this image. So quite a few vehicles being mentioned, / even revealed. They don't really name drop a bunch of vehicles, I feel, oftentimes for updates, so it's interesting they're name dropping like a few of them. I feel like if lucky, most updates they only like name drop like one of them. or to even like describe ones, like for example, current enterprises, they mentioned there's going to be like a couple like new tuner subclass vehicles or something, I thought, back in there, but they didn't really name what they would be or anything like that, I don't believe. So interesting how much details they're giving ahead of time for the vehicles this time around, which again, I don't think they do that often. In such great detail. But yeah, into the last bunch of stuff here, new experience improvements, GTA Plus member benefits, and more. For the final like headline kind of stuff here. Money Fronts is also rolling out a collection of gameplay updates, changes, quality of life improvements, basically as the bunch of updates before have basically already been doing for like a while now. Since like at least Chrono Enterprises, I would say. For like the last couple of years, as seeing it's closer to the end of life, basically for the live service and all that kind of stuff. Which apparently will include adding missile lock-on jammer capabilities to 50 more vehicles. Oh yes, that's absolutely going to be amazing to see. Hope they choose some pretty great ones. They actually did choose some pretty nice ones, I'd say, with the current batch, like the Overflod Pipistrello, for example. That one's like an electric one. They even did like motorcycles. I think the body might have been one of like the motorcycles, and like even a dirt bike, like the Sanchez, for example. They did. And they even did some armored vehicles, like the Duke of Death. Which isn't exactly like 10 plus explosives to destroy, so it's not exactly overpowered. It's even less, I think, than some of the like Amani Tech ones from like Agents of Sabotage, where they did that. They even did HSW vehicles. A lot of them were even like vaulted vehicles. A lot of the like vaulted vehicles, they actually put those on and actually came back into the game. So I would probably expect a bunch of vaulted vehicles to be available once again. So maybe hold out on a bunch of vaulted vehicles like right now. And maybe see if they just come back into the game next update. Really though, they should really reverse that whole decision. I feel at the rate they're going anyways at this point. They're all just going to eventually get back in with lock-on jammers or something. So please revert that clown decision y'all made in Sandra's Mercenaries vaulting vehicles for Rockstar. Cockstar, I guess. Yeah, definitely Cockstar. In that situation. That would very much be appreciated, albeit later than it should be. But all well. Well. Making several cutscenes skippable on mission replays. Oh, hell yes, man. That's a very good change there. The one that definitely comes to mind there would definitely be the Dr. Dre missions. Yeah, the Dr. Dre missions would definitely be the ones that come to mind there. Those are the ones of cutscenes I think pay out the most, basically. Because that's like $1 million like mission strand there, basically. I wonder how that would compare to old school Cow Perico grinding. Like, I assume there might be a longer cooldown than Cow Perico ever had with like the 5-minute cooldown back in the early days, but I mean, if it kind of gets back to like old school Cow Perico grinding, that would be nice, but yeah. I would have to imagine at least those definitely get the skipping of cutscenes. Honestly, aside for that, I don't really necessarily know of much other things that have cutscenes. Maybe the heists, for example, would come to mind. Though, I think for heists, you can already kind of skip the cutscenes if everybody's like watched them before. So if that's the case, then hopefully they make the change where, as long as the host, of course, has played it, then hopefully you can just skip it outright. Because if someone really wants to watch those cutscenes, they can just host their own heist. I'm sure they could. Even with how dumb randoms tend to be in the game. But yeah, definitely will be curious how this could change some of the money grinding, if it can make it a lot more like worth doing for like the Dre missions and all that kind of stuff. And doubling all sources of arena points. Definitely a step in the right direction, though I think that's not exactly the biggest deal when it comes to the arena. It's having to play the arena contents like at all, I feel, is what people don't like the most. I think what would be kind of better is if they actually like For example, there's like the Sasquatch to like repo work from like Simeon. If they made like that mission able to get the arena points and even double it as well, that would be nice. Like that's something that definitely comes to mind. Maybe if you do like the Duggan robbery or whatever for like the Chop Shop updates, since that features in the arena, like every time you do that, you can maybe get like arena points and double that amount. What I'm basically saying is they should add things with arena points that aren't like directly tied to the arena, like the contents from like that December 2018 update. Things that people are much more likely to play than the actual like glorified adversary mode kind of stuff. Now, I'm not the one to hate that kind of content the most, but I think that's the kind of stuff they should go more if they're trying to actually get people gained the points better. Because let's be real, legitimately, you're probably nowhere close to the rank 1000, basically. By the time the next GTA ends up coming out, of course, in not even a year from now. So they definitely need to do a whole lot more here. But I mean, at least they're finally doing something for the arena that was being neglected for like the longest time ever now. And then additional improvements apparently include delaying the global signal timer for cell missions for public sessions. So that just basically means that you have more time basically before your like cargo is put on the map, surely. So that's longer before you have to use like your ghost organization if you do that in public lobbies. That could actually go a long way to make sales more solo friendly when it comes to public lobbies even, which could be interesting. However, that would probably be best for smaller sales even still, so I don't see it being entirely game changing regardless nevertheless. But definitely another good step in the right direction there. Albeit the criminal enterprises like invite only sales is good enough change for me anyways. And then yeah, apparently they're disabling that Boxville van delivery vehicle for the biker sell missions, which a lot of people in the community consider like the worst of the sale missions of any business of the whole entire game. So that is definitely very interesting there. Honestly, I don't even really feel they need to disable this one ever since they upped the sale timer to 45 minutes solo. At least you get like 45 minutes if you do it solo anyways, at least. I feel this change would have been something that would have worked a lot better before that. But I mean, it's a fine change since it is one of the worst things. Sounds like you'll still get Trash Masters though, which I feel isn't really much better than this, but okay. I feel it's like another one of those situations where they fix one problem, but they leave the other problem like completely intact, or like they put like a half effort on the other problem. Like for example, when they did like the Sparrow Bambushka buff, the Sparrow buff was actually good since it didn't really need an explosive buff, but the buff they did made it where you don't like when you crash and land the helicopter, it doesn't like smoke 9 times out of 10, basically, like it used to. But then the Bambushka buff, being a large plane, didn't really like do really much of anything for it. And then yeah, also going back to like where I was talking about the biker sales, they increased its solo at least to 45 minutes. With that change, they also kind of did the same thing to the bunker, but the problem is the bunker, most sale missions are like 15 minutes, and I really only up to like 22.5 minutes. So honestly, I feel the Boxville thing at this point is kind of the least of the problems. I feel they should put more effort into like just give you 45 minutes on like all bunker sales, and so like having 22.5 minutes, like half of what it is for biker usually. I think that would have been a better change for like a business kind of thing, but I mean, given up here, they are just expanding on like air freight and weed. I guess since they're not really touching a bunker thing here, I guess I figured they'll just do another biker business kind of change, I guess, is what I'm thinking here. So that's probably the logic behind something with that, at least I'm guessing. And then Plus members will enjoy early access to the new Overflod Suzume supercar or whatever there. Yeah, this being tied to Plus I think the Banshee GTS was tied to Plus when it first came out for Agent Sabotage, and that was HSW, so I don't know if they always do that per se, but I think the last update, the latest current one they did that. So maybe that suggests that this one will be a new HSW supercar as well. I feel a new House Special Works supercar would actually be kind of welcome at this point in the game. The last one has been with the last Santos Drug Wars DLC, and that was like end of like 2022. So it's been a couple years since like HSW supercar. So if it is a new HSW supercar, that'd actually be pretty welcome. Now, I'm not the most familiar with what it might be. It could be another like electric-y kind of one, which would be competitive with like the second two or something maybe. That can maybe be what it's kind of like, maybe. I don't know. But like, I don't know, man. With the 4 they already have, not really sure they can do much different on a HSW supercar at this point. And maybe there's even other classes that could be more warranted. Like the first sedan HSW, for example, could be interesting. Which they don't have any for right now, basically. Like Off-Road finally got a second with the latest update with the Fireball ASP, albeit it doesn't work currently for HSW time trials, which hopefully they'll fix that with this update. Yeah. I very much could see this being HSW since it will be put in Plus, it looks like, for the launch of the DLC, and I think that's what they did with the GTS, so I do feel that's pretty likely. It seems you'll also get the privilege of a second daily spin of the Lucky Wheel inside the Diamond Casino Resort, apparently, as well. Now, for example, I think there's like 7 days for an event week. It's like 1 in 20 chance for a vehicle. It's like 20? No, that's 5% basically if there's 20 things on a Lucky Wheel for 1 in 20 chance for like a vehicle or whatever. 7 days for an event week usually does like 35% up to in a single event. That could go a long way of ensuring you get like a free vehicle legitimately without having to do like the method of closing out the game or whatever the method is to cheat it, which I don't support. I'm just saying I think that's what you do or whatever, and that's probably what people do if they just really want a vehicle for free or something. But yeah. That could definitely be a good way of increasing your odds against certain vehicles. Albeit, yeah, definitely not going to make it all that much more worthwhile compared to something like the free supercar, for example, for the 1 month. It sounds like a much more permanent benefit for that one, obviously, there. Which is definitely a pretty interesting benefit. And it could also mean more chances of getting the elusive last slam van. Yeah, it could be a much like better way of getting the like last slam van as well, the elusive one that's like the rarest vehicle to get in the whole game that you can only get for like the mystery section of the Lucky Wheel, I believe, legitimately. And you can't even like buy it from like the car meet or anything. And then stand by apparently for more information about GTA Online Money Front coming June 17th. Of course, for all platforms still, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, and PC. Yeah, it makes sense you're not going to drop the 8th gen platforms, being so close to the next GTA game, of course. Which also probably explains the small size of this update. Which, of course, is also kind of interesting because this was probably meant to be the final update before 6 comes out, but obviously 6 got the delays, so there's probably going to be another winter update as well. As well as at this point, of course. So, yeah. This might be the penultimate update for the whole game at this point, for like a content update anyways, not like further quality of life improvements or like a bug fix thing if they ever bother with that anymore, really. So this would probably be the perfect time to kind of say what I hope a final update would probably be for the game. Then in this kind of case, honestly, if I had to choose something for a final update, let me think here. Michael, obviously, is kind of like the last of the protagonists that have not been in the game, so an update involving Michael would make a lot of sense, I feel, for a final update. Something with like the movie studio, maybe something with like another VIP contract for like the agency or whatever. Which they technically do still use the agency a lot, technically, when it comes to the money tech that they keep on adding stuff for the lock-on jammer. Because unless you pay for Plus, you can only use the agency to get the lock-on jammer anyways. So it is pretty plausible they could expand the agency as a final update, which could make sense for like Michael or something. So I feel that could be a logical final update there. Albeit a Michael update, I feel would have to be kind of huge as like a final send-off update for the game, which I hope, of course, a final update would be huge, but also will not be surprised if the legacy platforms are supporting with the PS4, Xbox One, that they can't really do that much. So I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, if like a Michael update's just kind of out the question at this point as well. For a final update, adding like customizable boats, Pegasus vehicles, and the like last remaining vehicle types that cannot be customized as like customizable would be interesting. Like a naval boat update would be kind of a cool final one in my opinion, albeit yeah, water content currently in the game is not very interesting for a lot of players, so I don't necessarily see it happening too much. I will say, even though I do kind of want it as a final update. And then, yeah, besides for that, really like a huge ass quality of life update that like does any remaining stuff that they should do for existing contents that they haven't found a way to fit in other updates. Just one focusing on quality of life. Maybe not even a lot of vehicle stuff, maybe a smaller one again, like free mode events update. If they want to focus more time on the new game near the end, I feel it could actually be a very logical update for an end update as well. Or hell, even do like one more heist that stays solo friendly in the game, unlike Cowprico, which they made more group oriented, even though it was meant to be solo friendly, eventually did not become the most solo friendly. So having like an actual, like truly always good solo heist as an end all be all would be kind of a cool send off too, I feel. That's just a couple updates for like a final update I'd like to come to mind at least. That definitely comes to my mind at least. But yeah, now that I'm done talking about that tangent, I think that's pretty much going to be it for this video though. Hope you enjoyed.